Hi everyone, welcome to Third Coast Gaming Radio. It is our 2020 Game of the Year conversations. I'm joined by Austin Taylor.
Indeed you are.
Yes, he has gone through space and time on the internet to join me.
I mean, really just space. I'm still at home.
Oh, yeah. What year is it, and how are the Dallas Cowboys doing right now?
It is 2021, the same year that you are in, and I do not know how the Dallas Cowboys are doing. I do not watch football.
You know, I guess I signed up for the wrong Austin Patreon because I thought I was going to get an Austin from the future with knowledge that could help me bankroll the stock market. But
See, I
here
tried
we
to
are.
set that Patreon up, but they
Hmm.
told me it was illegal.
Oh, oh no. I guess we'll just have to talk about the video games of 2020. Today's January 1st, January 19th. It is a Wednesday, my dude.
Just 18 days off. It's all good.
Yeah, it's in the grand scheme of the universe, it doesn't really matter. But I think we were gonna do the our own top five personal games, and then we were gonna kind of roll into the major releases that we both played, indie and like AAA of 2020, and then we were gonna talk about some games that we both played a lot in 2020, or just had something different to say about it.
Yeah.
All right, if you want to start first. It says Austin's top five. Give me number five. Just roll into it. Tell me what you like about it. Why, what makes it on the top five? What are the things you think it did right? Did it like make 2020 different because of it? Go for it.
Yeah. So, like, I guess I didn't order this list, but I guess I'll just start from the bottom. This is Florence, which released on Steam here in February earlier this year. It is originally an iOS game that came out in 2019, but this is a sort of visual novel, like I don't want to say silent because it's just there's constantly music going, but a sort of visual novel about a woman who enters into like probably like the first serious adult relationship of her life, as is like, and that's kind of like what the game shows, and then like watching this relationship like grow and then eventually kind of transform and ultimately fall apart because she and her romantic partner like just want very different things and don't know how to get those things that they want while being with each other in that way. All in all, I'd say it's pretty like moving in how it like plays around with like the form of it because on like when you're playing this on a phone, the main interaction in this game is just like you swiping at things, very simplistic puzzles. Like there are arguments or conversations that you get into with Krish, who is Florence's romantic interest in it, that are just like assembling like simple puzzles, right? So like start out with like four pieces that form a text bubble. Eventually it just becomes one big piece, like when they're really just vibing with each other in their conversations. And then eventually you get to the parts where they're arguing, and those like text bubbles no longer complete, right? So it's a very simple but nonetheless very well thought out way of explaining like where the break in this relationship is happening, and like how that complicates their life together.
And I would say I'm looking at some gameplay of this. This looks like a WarioWare game, except if it was made with like a kind of like a I don't know, not indie game art style, but like a very like
Well, it's
a
like it's an illustrative style, right? So
yeah.
everything looks like hand drawn, kind of like one one bad step away from becoming like a Roald doll like illustration, right? On like the cover of like Charlie and the Chocolate Factory kind of thing.
Oh yeah, and I'm into it. A bunch of mini games in between. Like I'm I'm digging this art style.
Yeah, yeah, and they're all like very simple. Everything is like everything you interact with, you can basically do with your thumb, right? Because again, this was made for a mobile like release, and you just move everything with your thumb. It's very simple, but it is always communicating something very interesting to me.
Oh, this is a really good. I guess we since we are kind of talking spoilers, there's this part where they got in an argument and you're kind of putting their word puzzles together. You're just putting like red argument bubbles up next to each other, and then it's like a picture of the both of them in bed facing separately from each other after they got in a fight.
Yeah, that's the aftermath. So like throughout that argument, like you're no longer trying to like complete these puzzles in sync with Chris. Now you're trying to get these puzzles out before he does. And like as one of you like kind of dominates the argument, the screen begins like tilting towards whoever is getting these bubbles out quicker than the other. And the result's the same, right? There is no like actually like winning an argument is what that's trying to
No.
communicate, because like the results in it are the same no matter what.
Yeah. Oh
Like you are
no, and
both
you're
miserable.
yeah, and you're moving out of their apartment, I guess, and you're packing up your bag.
Yeah, so then like yeah, there gets to a point where like earlier in the game, like you move in together, and so you start trying to fit your lives together by like through stuff, right? So like you're moving Christian's stuff into Florence's apartment, and you're moving like Florence's stuff. Like maybe there's like some shoes, like she has a lot of shoes, right? And Chris has one pair, so you just have to find a place to put his one pair of shoes.
It seems like it's pretty short. It's about like 40
It's it's like
minutes.
a sitting, right? So like maybe at most I did play it on my phone, so I don't have like a accurate time tracker of it. I would say anywhere from like an hour to like 2.5 maybe.
Yeah, that's cool. It seems like a neat game. I'm into the art style. All right. Any other thoughts on it?
Um, Not really. Other than that, is just another of these games that's published by like Annapurna, right? And I think like it's just another entry in what is already a very solid catalog for that publisher.
Yeah. Let's see what else do they put out. They have the Pathless and Donut County and Outer Wilds and What Remains of Edith Finch. They're like that's their publishing arm. Ooh, Sayonara Wild Hearts. Yes. All right. So my top five. My fifth game is just no surprise to anyone. It's just Battlefield 5. The what I would call polar opposites of Florence is just competitive multiplayer shooter. Um, I think this kind of is a game that remained on my PS4 that I would play at least twice a month, just at random. And I'm surprised of the staying power of this. There was so much like coming out of people not liking the style from the trailers and bad press releases from German skins of like officers and like people just like not liking the gameplay of like World War II. But I think for me, it ended up just being something I could pop in and play really easily. Like when it comes to shooters like that, I will play like a Call of Duty game for a while and enjoy it, but it's like it's just you when you get into a match, you instantly spawn, you run up and then you die. I think like having a little more of a life has always been like what makes it like a Battlefield game. Something that I just keep coming back to. And you get like diverse stuff where you're like, "Oh, maybe I'll go fuck with a tank right now or maybe I'll go snipe and go sit somewhere and help people contest points or maybe I'll go be a someone who's rushing and go be a medic and push forward into the objectives and stuff." And I think they had their battle royale release when it came out too, but I wasn't too into it. It's fine.
Yeah,
That's all
so
I
I
have to
guess
say about Battlefield.
yeah, and I guess like because all I remember about Battlefield 5 was like pre-release, people were just not into like customization that you could do, right? And that was like from like a very specific crowd who like we don't necessarily need to like give any sort of platform too.
Hardcore World War II people
Yeah,
or
these hardcore World
whatever
War
that
II
is.
people
Uh huh.
who like also love Battlefield like 1, a game where you could ride a horse and just fire a flamethrower at people. And
Yeah.
um, yeah, I don't. And it's like what like I guess like as far as like gameplay, like what makes this different from like these Battlefield's been in like World War II before, right?
Like the first one, it was like 1942 was like their first release, and that was like might have been like a 2002
1940.
game or something. I don't know.
Yeah, okay, yeah. Now I'm remembering those again, like 1942, 1943. And
Yeah, and
those are like small releases too.
yeah,
Now that I'm thinking about
42
them.
was 2002, and 43 was like 2009 actually. That was a 360 game. I mean,
Yeah.
this Battlefield 5 really builds off of Battlefield 1. It's like if talking conquest, it's like basically set up the same way, except you can build terrain
Hmm.
in like certain objectives. As you can get like a toolkit out and you'll start building up sandbags and stuff, and then I don't know. It's just like they give you like a little bit more range with your weapons. I feel like kind of moving forward 20 years from World War One to World War Two, you kind of get a little bit better of an arsenal. You get some more RPGs. You get some like better feeling bolt action guns, and I think like the work on their engine feels better in this than it did the previous one. And the maps are really cool. Like you have like a stronghold that's like a there's two of them actually that are a castle, and it's you building up to the castle. Like one of them's a like kind of like an arid desert area that you're rushing to get to this castle. So one side will control the castle, the other side will have like a desert area. And then like they release their Pacific stuff, which those forests are lush and beautiful, and you rip through them with a flamethrower. So yeah, I don't know. It's been pretty cool. I think that's like you just retreading ground, but it's I like that game. It's cool.
Yeah. And like I guess like also like is there a difference in like its main map design from like Battlefield 1? Because I remember Battlefield 1 being like just huge wide open maps.
It feels pretty similar to Battlefield One's maps. Like
Okay.
they're pretty much wide open. There's not a lot of like you're not doing like a city that you're running through. The only thing close to like a city is like some map in like Italy that's like you have some like a homestead that you're running around in. That's like this. There's like a city map, and it's all close quarters, and you're like just getting wrecked if you're anything but like a medic. I don't know. The maps are pretty similar to the first games or Battlefield One.
Rad.
All right. Do you want to go to your top five?
Yeah, we can.
All
Yeah,
right.
so I'll jump in here with Hades, which is the roguelike developed by Supergiant Games Studios, the studio behind games like Bastion, Transistor, and Pyre, that exited early access on, I believe, is in September. So Steam page, September 17th of this year, and like I didn't think I was going to be into this one specifically because it's a roguelike, and I've never liked them. Like I've never liked any sort of roguelike that I've put time into. Um, but this one is like approachable enough in its narrative, and it also just it plays really well. Like it's the first of Supergiant's games that I can say I enjoy playing, uh, as much as I enjoy like hearing the like narrative like go through, you know. And then, like this is the entirety of this game is you fighting through a couple of levels of hell until you can get out. And then you realize at some point you can't actually leave. And when you realize that you can't truly leave, sorry, the trailer just started blasting, so there might be some audio levels there. And when you realize you can't truly leave hell, you instead refocus on making hell like livable and a better place for yourself and your family. And it's just incredible. I think it's a really good narrative to
How
put
do
within
you?
that space.
Is it end up being like a cutscene of you? When you say more livable, is that like a gameplay thing or is that like a cinematic thing that
Yeah,
happens?
it's a gameplay thing, right? So like once you realize you can't leave, um, you enter like the second half of this game, right? Where you are no longer because the entire I guess we should start with the premise of this game, like more or less, as far as this narrative goes. Like you are the son of Hades, Zagreus. You're trying to get out because you want to find out more info. Like you want to find your mother, who is Persephone, um, and she's not currently in Hades. So once you realize you can't get out of hell, is when you get out of hell. You find Persephone, and then you die, and you realize that there's no way that you can permanently live out of Hades. So after a couple of times where you meet Persephone, uh, you get her to come back to Hades, and you and her begin trying to sort of change like Hades the dude in his general attitude towards living in Hades, his family, and just management. So you're still doing a lot of this run stuff. Um, you're still like fighting your way through hell, but that's because now it's your job instead of now it's like you are a child trying to leave home for the first time.
Interesting. And Persephone, what? She was Demeter's like daughter that Hades kidnapped as a wife. I think that's how the story goes.
Yeah, that's the like that is the consistent with mythology. The idea, God damn it, auto scrolling trailers, hate it. The idea within Hades is that like that is like a framing of the story that they've put out. Like what happened is that Zeus helped Hades like help Persephone like leave Olympus. And part of that was that like she would go with Hades to Hades.
Yes. I wish I could name a place after me. I mean, I guess we can't. Let's go to Travis, Austin.
I I I've
Uh
been to
huh.
Travis County. I gotta say, wasn't necessarily too impressed. Wrote some great articles out of stories that happened in
Hmm.
Travis, but
I guess we'll go to Austin instead.
I didn't stay
Austin.
long. We don't have to go to Austin. That
All
city
right.
is not built well.
No, bad roads. I love the art style of Hades. I will probably make some time to play that when I get
Yeah,
to it.
like the art style is pretty great all around, like in all of Supergiant's games. So this like really stands out because, and and part of the thing here with Hades is that they did their best to make everyone hot.
Oh yeah, hot 10 out of 10. Everybody.
Like everyone, like there's an article that was going around a couple of months
Dionysus
back
very hot.
about the voice actress who plays Megara or Meg, one of the Furies, and how like this her performance in this game kind of like turned her like into some sort into like a sort of like sex symbol, right?
Damn.
And like her performance there, and like it was getting weird.
Hmm. The internet can be weird
Yeah, like
sometimes.
she was receiving like private messages from people, and it was getting kind of weird.
I guess she did very well then.
Oh yeah, she's great. She has a great performance in there. Like you're right. Is that the name? Is that the full name? Well, whatever. Meg is probably the best character in this game.
Cool. Cool. I know a bunch of people were giving this game of the year. I think it was Polygon's game of the year.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Might have
Like in
been
their top 50, it's like in their number one spot.
it. Yeah. All right. Got any other Hades thoughts?
Um, I wouldn't say any that are like, yeah, none that are like as like or greater than anything that I've said. I think the dog's good because you can mess around with Cerberus in this game, and the dog
Heard
is
good
very
things.
good.
Oh, the dog
Yeah,
is very good.
yeah, and
Uh, you,
the best part is you don't fight Cerberus.
hmm. He's your
Like,
boy.
yeah, you get to the final like level of hell, and it's like the labyrinth right before the exit, and Cerberus guards the door, and at no point in time does the game ever entertain the idea of you fighting Cerberus.
Oh.
So the final level of hell is you going through these chambers to find something to appease Cerberus.
Hey, that works for me. So, hey, speaking of dogs, you can pet. My
Talk to me
fourth
about dogs.
game. There's some dogs in Red Dead Online that you can pet. God, this game destroyed me for a month. I don't know if it's good or bad, but I enjoyed it. I think it originally came out. What, Red Dead Redemption 2 came out 2018, and the online mode for it came out November 27th, 2018,
Yeah,
and
it's
it
like
got
a month
a
later.
$5 to start standalone title version in December 1st, and I was like, oh yeah, I'm on my Xbox. One of my friends plays this on Xbox. I might as well just fuck with it, and it just was like, oh, there's something about like adding like a grinding system to like an open world game like Red Dead, to where I just like want to earn money and buy more guns and keep buying more guns. And then they have like those roles. It has like trader roles where you can be a trader, you can be a moonshiner, you can be a bounty hunter, you can be a naturalist who's like collecting samples from animals. I can't remember what the other one is. Oh, there's one more. Collector. You
Yeah,
go pick up bottles
knickknacks.
of antiques and shit and sell it for money. I don't know. I just kind of I basically played it for a month because it has a daily login bonus, and I did the 28 days in a row to get like a bunch of gold so I could go buy all the rolls, which I think I only ever did bounty hunting. I did collecting because it's just easy money, and then I went around and sedated a bunch of sheep to collect samples, because if you just farm sheep, as it
Yeah,
turns out, you can be rich.
very
I think you
clinical
spawned in
study.
one time when we played, and I was just shooting sheep when you got there.
Yeah, I had some
Yeah,
questions.
that's what I
Uh,
was doing.
yeah, but Red Dead Online, I could definitely see, like, I can see the appeal in there because, like, we played a bit of it, and like we've only interacted with like bounty hunting stuff for the most part. But like a lot of
Yeah.
the setup in Red Dead kind of puts you in this place where, because I've also been going back through the single player of Red Dead a bit since like that's just on my PS4 now. And I remembered that like the opening hours of Red Dead 2 are really compelling uh before the game just gives you so much money you have no idea what to do with it.
Oh yeah, where you're off in the world, just kind of being like, hey, lay low,
Yeah,
check
where
around
like
for some
you
crime.
where you need to hunt food and like animals to give to your camp so that way y'all can survive. And that kind of thing. But eventually you get to the point where you get so much money you can just make your camp self-sufficient and it doesn't matter anymore. But online puts you like in those opening hour like level of wealth and it keeps you there for a while because it wants you to grind so that way you can be tempted to
Yeah,
buy gold.
yeah, and even that, I've hardly interacted with the gold system. I think thankfully this game gives you a path to where the gold is unnecessary. It just takes longer,
Yeah.
but the things you're doing to make it take longer are always fun and something that I want to do and interact with. There's hardly been a time where I've been like, oh, I'm just doing this for the grind. The only time it's been that is when I've been doing like the collector stuff, but even that is, I'm just like, kind of gives me the chance to like enjoy like the world that they built, which is extremely detailed and beautiful and runs just fine on like my base PS4, and I'm sure looks amazing on like a 4K HDR TV. And it's a big map. It's got like the initial area of Red Dead 2 is like more in the what would you call that? Like the middle north, because you're
Middle.
going to like some snow areas and you're going to like Louisiana kind of looking place.
Yeah, I mean, I would say it's like the setting, like geographically in the US. You're
Yeah.
very much on like sort of like Gulf Texas, like Louisiana regions, I think, because you can just go right into Mexico.
Yeah.
Because that same map is in Red Dead Redemption 1. I don't know if you can go into Mexico in RDR2,
No.
but
But I'm
yeah,
trying to think of like, because there's like the new Austin area, which is basically the map from Red Dead 1. And then you have like the Red Dead 2 map, which is Louisiana and the stuff north of that. So there's like two different kind of sides of the map that you can kind of go to. And it's really cool that like I played the first game's Red Dead Online a lot. And there's this like bounty camp I used to go into called, I think it was Gaptooth Ridge. It's the mission where we were trying to find that guy.
Some con man with a hat.
Yeah, and we have to flip the hats. That exact same area was exactly the same in the first game. And there's like a stronghold in there where I would go and clear enemies out. And the first time I go in there, I'm just like, oh, this is just the same place. This is really cool. And it's prettier. Neat.
Yeah. I would say something like, turns out you can save a lot of time when you just put the old map in there, but it's definitely not what happened. Like they had to reconstruct that.
And
Um,
I think it works for the online too.
yeah, and they did like
Just
a
gives you more.
really,
Yeah.
yeah, they did like a really good job, like reinterpreting that and like putting it into two.
Yeah, and I think like like not even the weapons, like just like I'm just stocking up on like food and like getting like being picky about like I for all intents and purposes my character is like a faux vegetarian who I only eat beans and I don't mess with any of the meat really. And I only hunt stuff when it gets me like a lot of gold for my what I'll say my dailies. But I
Yeah,
basically try not to hunt animals at all. And then getting stuff for your horses. Like there's a couple saddles I'll get, and then like just like dude, the clothing made me go fucking crazy because I just want to buy everything, Austin. It's so hard to stop myself because at one point I think I spent like $600 in a day just like being like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna get these pants that go over the boots a certain way. I'm gonna get a
yeah,
bunch of these boots that look the same that are really cool.
oh
A
yeah,
bunch of vests and a bunch of white shirts and these really sick coats. The sick coats, Austin.
yeah. No, I get that. Like there was a time when I was really into GTA Online, and the thing that the PlayStation 4 does is it will sort of broadcast milestones you reach in that game to your friends list. Through the social feed on that. And there was a point in time when it did broadcast to all my friends that I had spent like $350,000 in uh, for through buying clothes in GTA Online.
They had
So
some
like
good clothes.
if I they have good clothes in GTA Online. If I liked the clothing in Red Dead Online, I would definitely be on that.
Yeah, and there's some stuff. I think in GTA Online, I would make a guy with a parachute to make him have a backpack, and then I would give him like a button-up shirt and like a fucking dinky cowboy hat. Cause
I
fuck
had
it.
I had like 8 different set outfits in GTA Online. That I would just rotate between if I didn't feel like experimenting that day. And then probably would, so I'd end up like doing something ridiculous with like making a look around like a giant pair of pink boots.
And maybe I should fucking buy GTA Online, Austin. I'm thinking about it. I
You
don't think
don't,
Austin has the hard drive space for it, but I do. I got a 2 terabyte.
we don't
I'll
need to mess with GTA
yeah.
Online. It's so much worse because the other thing with Red Dead Online is it's so quiet.
Oh, it's so peaceful. Oh my
You
god.
will run into like how many people are on the server in like Red Dead Online? Like 12?
I think it's like 24, but you barely see them. The map is so
Yeah.
big that you barely see anybody.
Yeah, it's like 24 people and it's just vast wilderness. You have like I think more than 24 people on a server in GTA Online. And the thing about that is so much of GTA
Chaos.
Online's activities are centered in the city of Los Santos as opposed to any other part of the San Andreas County that you can go to. So everyone is just in the downtown area of Los Santos killing each other all the time, and it sucks.
It does suck, yeah. I think the one thing I enjoyed the most from GTA Online was the survival wave based missions, which is something I hope Red Dead Online gets at some point. Because I just want to have an area that you hold down where the people are just rushing in constantly.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if they'll ever make that because the thing with GTA Online is that's how like that's a farming mission, right? Like that is you get big money from that.
Oh
Um,
yeah, that's all I used to do. I
yeah,
remember that when released.
yeah, and so I don't think they're going to put that mode in Red Dead Online because the only thing that they could do is they could put that in. It would take a lot longer because you're working with like less dynamic weaponry and a lot less weaponry at any given point in time because you can only carry like 3 to 4 guns as opposed to an entire arsenal. Um,
Yeah.
and they
Although,
can't.
although at my point, I'm pretty fast at murdering people. Austin, I'll
Yeah, I mean,
say.
it's not like,
I'm
yeah, it's not
pretty.
hard to do, right? Like you can do a lot of murdering, but like you're not going to do the same rate of murder that you do with like a machine gun.
This is true. This is true. But we'll see. I mean, that's my hopes. I think the other stuff is like some of the multiplayer stuff is kind of busted because when you load into a match, you bring your weapons with you,
Yeah,
and if someone just has better weapons, you will get fucked. And all the auto aim stuff in multiplayer is just like people headshotting you from way too far away. And then you can drink tonics in there, which these tonics will fortify your health bar and your stamina bar to make it to where more you have to get more bullets into you before you drop, which is wild. Why would you be able to drink things that like these are things you buy for like $5 and then like craft that just make you like a fucking god against other people?
because they're not here to. Rockstar's not here to do balance, you know? Like
No, unfortunately not.
they've never been there for balance. Like you can go into team death matches in GTA Online and like as a level like 3 or 1 and hit people who have been grinding this game since day one. So you're gonna have like 2 different pistols, maybe a sawed-off shotgun, and they're gonna have a rail gun.
Although I do remember, so the reason I bring this up is because the first Red Dead Online is the map would give you weapons dependent on what it is. Like
Yeah,
certain maps would just give you a cattleman revolver and a repeater. Another one would give you like a skull field and like a shotgun, or like the what are those weird like pistols you get before the Mauser, like the volcanic pistol?
yeah, the
It would just
volcanic
give you that, and then you
pistol.
would go find some upgrade. Because I used to play the multiplayer in the first game a lot. It was like a year where I played that, where I was going back and forth between doing those team deathmatch stuff and just like missions with my friend on the outside of it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
So
that's my Red Dead Online thoughts. It's
yeah,
been
and
cool.
like that also just reveals like a different like philosophy of the time, right? Like in many ways, Red Dead, like the first Red Dead Online is shaped because like we were doing a lot of team deathmatch, right? Like it's based around that type of thing because team deathmatch was like the prevalent multiplayer mode. And Red Dead, and like then you get GTA Online, and then you get Red Dead Online for the second game, and that's no longer true.
Yeah, and even though Red Dead Online 2 has these like multiplayer modes, I think the focus is much more in the open world and like the PvE content compared to
Yeah,
like the PvP stuff. Cuz they'll throw out some stuff, but it's fine. It's just unbalanced, and it's just like is not what I interact with, which is kind of a bummer. That's the only bummer I have for it. And like wishing there was a couple more. So after you do those like missions where it's like the you're doing them for the sheriff and you go meet the other sheriffs and you do some like morale missions, there is no more missions after that. You just do your roles, or you can go do fetch quests for like random people that aren't that great. Like most of the missions come out of like what I will call the longest like type of shootout mission are the bounty hunter stuff, which is just you run, go get a target, and that's where your shootouts are. Those are reliable compared to like there's some gang hideouts, but everyone clears them in the map, so there's hardly ever any that come up that you do.
yeah.
But yeah, that's my Red Dead Online thoughts. I'm gonna let you talk about Outer Wilds for a second. I gotta check on my dogs real fast. But you wanna give me some Outer Wilds thoughts? I think
Howdy,
that's your number three.
howdy, boy, do I?
Yeah, right back.
Um, okay, so this is another. This is another. Oh, oh, Outer Wilds, June 2020. What? What? No, that's not right. That can't be right. Anyway, I think the release date's a little. Oh, that's because it's on Steam. So the Outer Wilds was released in 2019 on the Epic Game Store, and this is a very like calm, very very calm and meditative, I'll say, sort of space exploration game where you play as one of this like four-armed, I think purple race of aliens who are just sort of starting to explore their own solar system. You play as the astronaut of the fifth expedition in this solar system. There are four other people who have gone before you. They haven't come back. You know they're still out there, but they haven't come back to your planet since leaving. So, the game starts, you wake up, see a couple of things happen in space because you can observe space from any planet. There's no like barrier that like the usual atmosphere like that we see when we look in the sky creates. Um, and you like see a couple of anomalies happen. You learn how to like walk, move, jump, how to repair things in zero gravity because that's a big part of this game is that you'll be interacting with zero G a lot, so you need to know how it works. And then you leave the planet, like you get the codes to go into your big spaceship, you leave the planet and you get to explore the solar system for a bit, and you have up to I'd say about five base planets that you can get to. There's other stuff on it. There's a comet that keeps going around the sun, or that moves around the solar system, gets close to the sun that you can explore if you want. And you get to do that for about 20 minutes, 22 or 26 minutes, and then everything blows up. And then you come back and you realize that you are stuck in a time loop. So it's a real Groundhog Day scenario, and it is just a fantastic video game. Um, so once you realize you're in this sort of time loop situation, you realize that the only way to maybe get out of this is to understand more about the people who created the device that you interacted with on your first loop that put you in this spot. And you begin exploring this solar system looking for the ancient ruins and relics of a race of people I believe are called the Nomai, um, who like are kind of like these space explorers that you revere, that your entire society reveres because you believe them to have so much far more advanced technology than you, and you're just now uncovering the ability to like translate their script. And throughout like the entirety of this game, you are delving into these planets. You're learning how to navigate their sort of natural phenomena that occur, like Giants Deep is a planet where there's just a lot of storms going on. Like there are these like hurricanes and tornadoes going on. It's like you eventually learn how those work and how you can navigate those and how you can actually use those. And it is so satisfying, um, in the way that you sort of like you don't gain any new skills at any given point in time. All you're ever getting is knowledge, and how the game gives you that knowledge and then shows and tells you how you can apply it. And then the actual application of that knowledge is probably one of the most satisfying gameplay loops I've experienced ever.
Yeah, and I would compare this game to like, even though they are fundamentally different in like your moment to moment, is like this is like the Witness in space kind of where the game does not hold your hand really, and it is trying to get you to solve these complex puzzles. And I think it's just as satisfying. Like the puzzles I completed in my time with Outer Wilds gave me like the same kind of like feeling as like going through like harder stuff in The Witness.
Yeah, and the thing with like the Witness is like it's trying like the Witness is a game that's like trying to teach you this like language of puzzle, right? Like it's trying to teach you this specific type of puzzle in very very niche ways when it gets to a certain point. Um, and this like there's like a small tutorial area that you can interact with and mess around in, but it's not gonna like give you the nuances of how to control your ship. It's not gonna help you get through Dark Bramble, which is just the worst.
Literally a nightmare.
Yeah, that's I haven't finished this game.
Yeah.
That's the reason I haven't like finished this game. I can't stand it.
But very cool. Any other Outer Wilds thoughts?
Um, I don't like that's like the thing. Like I have
I like
so
cooking.
many.
I like cooking marshmallows, Austin.
I have
Cooking
so
those
many, but
marshmallows
it's
real
also a
good.
game like it's it's hard to be a person who's like, man, spoil like caring about spoilers is stupid, right? Like we shouldn't care about getting spoilers in like pre-release stuff. But then I play something like Outer Wilds, so I'm like, oh, I don't know if I want to tell anyone about some of this.
There's some wild shit in that game. I need to play and beat that
It
still.
gets, oh my gosh, it gets wild. It is
Oh, it gets
always
wild.
it gets absolutely wild. Like it is like when you finally learn how to navigate something like the quantum moon, which is something within the solar system. It's a sort of it's a celestial body, like they call movies, like it's always orbiting a planet, and when you look away from it, it disappears. But when you understand how it works and how you can land on it, and then how you can navigate its surface, is just incredible. It is like an incredible moment for that game, and
Oh, moment of the year.
what it leads to is just phenomenal. I think Outer Wilds is pretty incredible. It's insane. And this is also like a fun fact. This is like from a studio that was created by like the actor who plays Hiro Nakamura in like the show Heroes, which also just sent me for a loop because I remember liking that show a lot and always wondering what happened to those people.
And it was like mostly a game that like college students were making. That it started out as, right?
Yeah,
Like
it
a tech
started as this
demo
like it started as this like experimental tech demo. And
or
then
like a project that they were doing for a grade.
yeah, and then Mobius like I guess I don't know if they formed Mobius or it was picked up by that, and then like Anna again, this is another one of Annapurna's published bits.
Very cool, very pretty too. I like everything that game is trying to do. Um, I'm gonna talk about Remnant
Yeah,
if you're
give
ready for it.
oh god, give us the number two that we are probably gonna spend another hour and a half on.
Yeah. So this is my
Oh,
number
number
three
three.
on my top five. I Remnant. I think that's like the first game that we kind of played together too. I one of my friends was into it, and I think I was just like asking you about it one time, and you're like, "Yeah, I play Remnant," and I'm like, "Oh, me too. We should play some Remnant." And it turns out, Austin, you've played way more Remnant than I have, and you have those levels memorized.
Yeah, I played a lot of this. Like this was like if I because like when I came back, like they put Remnant on the Epic Game Store, so I got that for free. And then I remembered that I had it on my PlayStation, and I was so much farther, so I got back to it on my PlayStation. And I think that's like when we started playing that together.
And this is like a Resident Evil, like standing here shooting some dudes, not moving that fast, mixed with like what I would say is like the Dark Souls stuff, where you go to an area, you're gonna get murdered, you get murdered, and you have to go back to like a bonfire is what I'll call it. And this, it's like a crystal that comes up, and it's like your respawn checkpoint. So you have to, you're kind of moving forward with your progress. And these enemies suck. They run at you in the beginning. And I died a lot in the beginning, Austin. Like that first times I played this, I was like, I don't know what the fuck is going on.
Yeah,
And
like
this, the looks of this game is like it's by the Darksiders people, like who made those original games. It's cool. I
yeah,
it's like a post-apocalyptic, and you just run around with like repeaters and pistols and shotguns and weird alien guns. What's your favorite weird alien gun, Austin?
that's definitely like I don't even remember names. I don't remember the name of my very good gun. It's definitely the gun that lets you just shoot out of singularity. That sucks enemies into it and then does an insane amount of damage based on how many enemies are in that singularity.
Yeah, and I like that you get this like SMG that's just like your alt fire is just, it's just a fucking flamethrower, and I'm like, all right, sure, whatever. I killed this dragon and turned its heart into a flamethrower SMG. Sure.
Yeah, it turns out, those people, the people behind the Darksiders games, are wanted to make a game where you could use some very strange guns.
Yeah, it's almost like Ratchet and Clank's weird guns, except they're like instead of like future guns, they're like weird like root guns because that's who you're fighting. And like the most of the beginning chapters of that game is there's like a root that takes over, and they make like what I will say is creatures that are Groot like that attack you at some point.
Yeah, it's this sort of, I guess, like some lore, this like malevolent, interdimensional entity that is allowed into Earth begins like again takes root, haha, teehee, um, on Earth and just begins like aggressively killing off all other forms of plant life and then all other forms of life.
And they made that gameplay. It's just me dodge rolling. Also, kind of more I guess more Gears of War than Resident Evil is like you are definitely I'm rolling a lot and just shotgunning these dudes, Austin, and it's so fun.
Yeah, and like so much of like the enemy design is just focused around allowing you to like maybe recklessly like run through areas with a shotgun and like roll around and blast people or like stand back and methodically snipe people. It's going to take you a while either way, but they're both equally rewarding methods of getting through an area in that game.
Yeah, and I think the area that takes like the most advantage of that is like that nomad planet that's kind of a desert, and you're fighting the dudes. They kind of have like spears they're throwing at you and stuff, and I think that area is like, oh, they're just gonna throw a bunch of dudes at me who rush me, who have a lot of health. These bigger dudes who just like will one or two hit kill me, and like a bunch of archers behind them or whatever, and dogs, those fucking dogs. The only thing I say about this game feels smaller than like a Gears of War. Obviously, it's like a smaller team, and I'm hoping for like a sequel that like the areas just get like bigger and more complex. I mean, the way the game is set up right now is there's a set of tiles, and they have like a main tile that when you start the game, and then it will randomly generate your side missions, and then it will your tile is basically generated when you start the game, right?
Yeah.
And then it will give you either this boss or this boss A or boss B at a certain point. But all the, like the main core missions are like always linked together the same way. But there's like certain stuff you're doing on the sides that are different that I think is really like unique in a game that I haven't seen. Like nobody does that in like a third person shooter like this.
Yeah, like it is very I think it's like something that this game hit very well is that like even with its like procedurally generated like sort of like hub and spoke design of its like worlds, right? Where even and this is like mostly to do with like the arcade sort of or the adventure mode section here where it's like you're going to spawn in on like a bigger map that's going to have like four exits that are going to lead to like all your side mission stuff. It is always satisfying even though it's random, right? Like I've gone through and done so much of the same stuff a number of times that even though I've still done that stuff, like I think it's always satisfying to go through because like it's always like challenging in an interesting way. And there's always again like and with adventure there's always that almost promise of like maybe you'll get something new here.
Yeah, and that is the point of this game is I am trying to get better weapons. I'm trying to get weird armor that makes me way stronger and weird rings that just like make me way more durable. I just want to murder stuff faster, and that's like been the loop for me, which I've really liked. And even the DLC has been really cool. Like there's we go to like what was it Ward Prime, I think they call it in one of the
Yes,
DLCs.
like the epilogue DLC that we played, you go to like the first of the ward, which is an underground bunker that humanity took refuge in to escape the root on Earth.
Subject 2923 is the campaign. I just love running around this weird. So these wards are like the safe areas for people. They're kind of like vaults from ideal, like the same idea is set up as their vaults from Fallout, where people are staying to get away from the rest of the world. Except it's more of a home.
Yeah,
But I mean they're basically the same if you
I
think
mean
about it.
they
It's
weren't
just
set
you
up to
leave.
fail,
Yeah.
is the thing.
Yeah, but like it is so fun. It gives me the same kind of feelings that like you're running around this lived in space and there's just weird shit going on, which is a thing that happens in Fallout when you go to like the weird vaults that you find in there. And I've really enjoyed that Subject 2923 DLC because you're like shifting through like realities where you have like an alternate dimension where things are different and enemies will aggro you, but when you're in the regular reality, they don't. So you have all these weird puzzles you're trying to figure out while you're doing that.
Yeah, like that's all been pretty good so far because like that is it's like when this game like goes hard on its nonsense, it goes hard and it usually works out really well.
Yeah, and it's very rewarding. I think that's one of their key strengths from the studio is doing that. Um, I mean, if this was the game, if this was the year it came out, and it'd probably be higher on my list. But I've definitely, God, it just, I think it's beaten out by some heavy hitters that are up here on mine. Do you want to talk about If Found a little bit?
Yeah, so we're gonna go ahead move on to number two game I got to play this year, which is another visual novel. Another God, turns out I might just be an Annapurna
Uh huh.
stan at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Surprising,
A
I know.
mark. Yeah.
Because this is another Annapurna interactive published joint. Uh, this one is a visual novel called If Found, which was developed by Dreamfeel, and this is a game where like you have two narratives that are converging. One is this sort of space like interdimensional like space voyage where you play as an astronaut named Cassiopeia who's trying to understand why the world's about to get sucked into a black hole. And the other narrative is where you play as a woman named Casillo, I believe is how you would pronounce that. And like the perspective of her campaign is that you are destroying her diary to feed a fire in a ruined mansion that is uh, like where you are about to succumb to like the cold of Ireland. Because it's all set on I believe it is Akil Island is how that is pronounced. And like has Castillo has gone home for the first time since going to college, and she's experiencing just a lot of dissonance in regards to like interacting with her family again, her really shitty brother, her ununderstanding like mother, and finding a sort of another family in her friend Colm and the people that he has gathered around him. And so, like, her entire story is going through her journal, destroying everything to feed a fire to keep herself alive. And then by the end of it, you get this really interesting perspective switch where you are allowed to begin entering things into the journal again. It's a new journal you're writing in about sort of your perspective now that you've had some distance from the events of the narrative, how things have changed since then. And you also get an epilogue chapter you where it takes you on a sort of like a couple of days after the events of the game, a couple of months, and then a couple of years, and also a sort of alternate reality where Cassiopeia does not stop the black hole from consuming Earth.
Oh no.
And it is always like every narrative in this game that you interact with is so well done. It is so like it is written with so much care and authenticity and heart that it is I it's a hard thing to put into words here, but it is a very well made and very very caring game in a way that makes it leaps and bounds like one of the best visual novels I've played.
And you could almost say it gave you some good feels too.
I could say that, but I feel like that would be a very simplistic way of describing probably a far too simplistic way of describing uh, this game's like objective and effect on me.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like a banger.
It is it is indeed a banger. Also, the soundtrack of this game slaps so hard.
Yeah. I'm gonna look at this up really fast Because, we don't have a best soundtrack category, but it would probably be this and Final Fantasy VII Remake and Risk of Rain 2. Um, me. Oh, yeah. This is like some shit on Spotify that I listen to. Oh my god. This is synthy and I'm way too into this. This is instantly a Spotify. Gonna either download this or find it on Spotify.
Yeah, and like it goes between like synth because like if it's synth, most of what you're hearing is probably like the space adventure with Cassiopeia. Um,
Yeah.
when you play as Cassio, it's a bit more contemplative. It's more like there is a this sort of I don't know if it's a hymn,
It's
right?
kind of
But
like,
there,
it reminds me of like lo-fi stuff in the same way where it's just like very relaxing music without vocals. It's a little like more upbeat than that.
yeah, and there is a vocal
Hmm.
track in this game. Actually, there's two um, that I'm aware of, and they're both really really great. There's one that will like occasionally pop up as you play, which is this like sort of 8 minute almost like hymn sounding, right? Like the closest frame of reference I have is like a religious hymn that you hear in church. Um, but it is in, I believe the language is Gaelic. So
Yeah.
I don't actually know what the contents of that song are describing. I've looked it up a few times and I haven't found anything particularly useful. And then there's
Some good
also
stuff. This.
there's
Go
also
for it.
just like the end credits song, which is like a really I don't want to say cheesy, but kind of like predictably um, predictably paced sort of piece um, that is like it's very pleasant when you get to it.
Yeah, I there we will talk about my jams of 2020, but this is right in there with stuff that like I drive to while delivering pizza. This is very good music. It's very relaxing. It's very atmospheric. Because I will call the playlist that I pulled up is called Slow Bass Instrumental, and I think that like it's like night vibes is what I will also call it. It's very synth or like bassy kind of stuff.
Yeah, and a lot
It's
of
very good.
I feel like we should give like there is I will say like the credit for the soundtrack is a lot of it goes to Too Mellow, who writes a lot of really good like sort of he's an indie there I should say they I'm not entirely sure. They like write a lot of really good indie pieces. Almost always bangers. I don't think I can actually say anything bad against about their work.
Cool. Yeah. Let's see. My second game. If you don't have any other if found thoughts, I don't wanna.
Yeah, yeah. Let's move on to your number two. Let's
Yeah, yeah.
let's
Hey,
hit this.
it's a surprise. It's no surprise that Animal Crossing
Yeah.
found its
There's
way on here. Came out in March. This game exploded. Everybody fucking loved this game. But I've been playing Animal Crossing since it came out on the GameCube. One of my friends had it, and he had like a bunch of weird shit in his house. And I'm like 10 years old, and I'm like, yo, I could fuck with this. So it's just been ever since then.
the inner
I
monologue of
think
a
I think I played
10-year-old.
this for about yeah. I'm still playing this. I will still hop on. It's not as frequently. Like the first like 5 months of this game is me hopping on 6 times a week to play it for like an hour. It's like the rhythm of like a phone game where you check in every day and you get your new stuff and you farm your stuff. Like I'm logging in, I'm getting my furniture, I'm fishing a little bit. Maybe I'm getting some fossils to put in my museum. But this game is just fucking charming, Austin. Like this game, Nintendo also has a problem with their Animal Crossing series, where a lot of their games will take like, what I will say is they will take like 3 steps forward and then like 2 steps back. To where like they will add some really cool shit, but they'll just take some stuff away too. They don't want me to have it, Austin. I'm really sad about it. But like so they added the ability to craft furniture now, and that's been really cool. Like you're just kind of like, I messed with it mostly in the beginning because I was like, there's a couple furniture sets I wanted out of it. There's like a cool cabin looking set, and then there's like a metal furnishing set that's kind of like a like a modern furniture set. Let me try and
Yeah,
set you a
like a
picture of
sort of
this
like
so you can like.
modern chic.
Yeah,
I think that those are words you can apply to furniture.
yeah. The things they do get rid of though is there used to be like 12 furniture sets that were like unique stuff. And now it's just like, oh, you can craft some of these, but it's mostly just weird stuff you're putting outside or just like kind of like outside furniture more than like they take much more effort with like the outside stuff than the inside stuff. I sent you this link. It's called the Ironwood set. Like there's a bed here. It just has like it just looks like a regular bed frame or it's just like uh black metal bars kind of setting up the side of the bed and it's just like regular looking furniture. But the thing that kind of kept me going, coming back to this game, is just like it's just super chill to relax in, and all your neighbors are really cool. So I bought this game for $60, and then I bought $30 worth of villagers to come live in my house over the past like 5 months, which is just like they have these amiibos. So the amiibo is like a scannable toy that the Switch will do, and they made these cards for Animal Crossing where they would sell packs. So it had like 7 characters in a pack. So I would buy the singles off of eBay to get the people I wanted to from my old towns. And I think I spent like $15 to become rich in this game too, because people will just sell you the in-game currency online.
Yeah.
That's where I paid someone $15 on eBay, and they came into my town and dropped like 200 gold nuggets, which I sold for like to pay off my house pretty much. Because the way this game is set up is you come to the island. There's this dude Nook, and he's a raccoon. He's a businessman. He wants your money, Austin. And
Yeah. Yeah. Know about
yeah,
Tom Nook.
yeah. Tom Nook wants your money, so he's like, yo, you can be the mayor of this island or whatever. But I'm gonna sell you this piece of land and this house, and as you, oh god, there's a cat outfit of Nook. Someone dressed their cat up as Nook. I can't. But god damn it, I've destroyed my brain, Austin. Um, you're basically paying off your house to get bigger upgrades and stuff, so you can put more in it. You just look at these cats, Austin. So yeah, that's what like the main one of your main goals in Animal Crossing is to pay off your house. But I've done that so much that I just bypassed it so I could go collect shitty furniture and make my nightmare town.
There's not like a
This cat's not having a good day.
there's not like a time limit on how like long you have, right? Like there's no fail
Nah.
state in Animal Crossing.
Nah. There's no loans. You take a loan out and there's no interest. So he's just like, hey, pay off like 100,000 bells to me at some point. I don't really care. You
Yeah.
do whatever you want to. He doesn't bother you about it.
Yeah, Tom Nook sounds like an incredibly fair loan shark, but okay.
Yeah, comparatively, he's just like, hey, you could get a bigger house if you want.
Yeah. It's like, here's
Um,
some money, I'll loan it out to you. Just pay me back when you can, and I mean it.
yeah, and I mean it. And he stares you down.
Yeah. No rush,
Um,
literally.
no rush. I don't know the Hawaiian setting, the the island setting. I said Hawaii for a second. The island setting works out pretty well. Like I think it's like a different. It's a nice change of pace. It's for the series, and I think the soundtrack kind of goes along with that. I'm trying to think of other things that this game is doing. The crafting stuff. So your tools will break,
Yeah.
which is kind of shitty. But I got past that by whenever you recolor these furniture items, is they'll just go to max durability. Jam to the soundtrack with me though, Austin. So much flute. And each hour of the day has a different melody that's gonna be playing while you're running around the town and stuff.
Yeah, this feels like some late 90s, early 2000s like animated slice of life Nickelodeon show,
Yeah.
like Kid Nick show.
You go to 2 hours and 30 minutes on this New Horizons full OST by Jono Plays. The snow theme, which is what I've been doing lately, because it's December and January. It's just so good, Austin.
Yeah, yeah, I get that. Like this I don't know why, but like the first thing that entered my mind is yeah, it's just the really I can't even remember the name of it.
Is it
Anyway,
Doug?
no, it's not Doug. I didn't watch Doug. I was
No.
not raised on Doug. I was raised. I no, I know the show. I'm not gonna say its name. Because let's just say
Why?
the inspiration for it was found guilty of assaulting multiple women.
All right, let's move on.
Yeah. So we don't have to talk about that show. Never mind.
No, it's fine. But yeah, Animal Crossing, very cool, very fun. What am I doing in my town right now? I just log in and say hi to my villagers, and I'll do the. I did Christmas, which was cool. I gave everyone in my town presents, and I had a Santa hat.
Oh, lovely.
And then I did New Year's, and we all popped firecrackers and counted down. Although I did New Year's like 2 weeks after New Year's because I was behind.
Yeah.
So I just sat there and hung out with my villagers on like, January 15th, being like, "Oh yeah, it's New Year's, you guys. Don't worry, it's fine. Come on, let's hang out, you guys. Don't worry
Yeah.
about it."
So like you're the mayor of this island.
Yeah.
What administrative like duties do you have?
So I know you were the mayor in the last game, but you're basically the same thing here. You're like the town representative, is what they call you in this one. But it's the same thing. You can just kind of like, you can move houses around. You could set up plots of land. You have construction stuff to where you can completely remodel your island. You can be like, oh, I want this river to go this way, or I want it to be raised here. Sorry, I'm burping a little bit, but you have full creative control of the island and what you're doing to it. And you can set up new bridges, and you ask new villagers to come move in. There's not like a lot of stuff as a mayor, but it's mostly just like small stuff like that. Let me find you some of these. Let me show you some fucking shit that people do in this game,
Yeah.
Austin.
Yeah, but do you need to like build out in a certain way so that like you can like make keep people satisfied?
Nah, everyone just moves in. They're super chill and they don't care.
Okay.
They just stay in your island basically. Um, the only like you have like a town rating that you will get that when you get it to like 5, you'll get you'll start growing some special flowers that are called Jacob's ladders that are really pretty looking. They're kind of like orchids or something. And then you get a recipe for like a golden tool. Let me show you what some people do with these islands. Like look at already from like the thumbnail. This is someone's aesthetic intricate town island tour by Katie on Kala Cove on YouTube.
Yeah. Oh, I can see
And I
this.
think she visits people's islands. Like look at how people do some stuff. Like there's a level of like work that people put in their islands where they're putting fences up, they're putting roads in, they're putting a bunch of outdoor stuff to make this feel like a town. Instead where my island is just like an island with some shit kind of everywhere, and then there's my shopping area.
Gotta say, I don't know if I like any of these as much as Joe Biden's island.
Oh yeah, Joe Biden had a pretty good island. That was a cool thing that came out of it. There's Animal Crossing blew up, man. People in quarantine just hanging out with their animals and
Yeah.
using it for political gain. It's fine.
I'm yeah.
Oh, go to 36 minutes on this. Let's take a look at this beach with me. Go to this fucking beach, Austin.
Hang on, I gotta maximize Discord real
I
quick.
wish I could put this much effort into a beach.
Oh, this looks. I don't know. I don't think I like this very much.
It's okay. It's a little cluttered. I maybe in the next games they'll give you. I wish they would double the map size. Let you have the option
Well, I
of
mean,
doing
yeah, it
something
is
like that.
like it's cluttered, but it's also like view of a beach as like imagined by someone whose favorite idea of a beach is like their lake house back porch. Um, like the
That's a choice.
like the pier is good, but the amount of furniture that's just sitting on the sand is a whole thing.
Yeah, it's a lot of
I
furniture.
would lose my
Hey,
mind.
Well, there's like a story in this island, is what I'll say. But I don't know. I think there's so much creativity going on, and so many people like creating designs and sharing them. Like someone recreated like a Japanese district in Animal Crossing. That's really good.
Yeah, like this is like a lot of this is like you'd see a lot of this in like early 2010s Minecraft videos, but the thing here is this is so much more accessible in a real way because like now when you make furniture you can use it instead of in Minecraft where you just make really big furniture that you'll never actually use.
Yeah, check out this Japanese city theme. If we go to like 10 minutes, where's the good shit? You had about 8 minutes, 8 minutes 20 seconds. There's just a lot of like outside shops and a bunch of like um, power lines up, and the whole area is tiled. Like there's no like regular ground. Like this looks like an actual city.
Yeah. Yeah, that's cool. Like the way that people get around because I imagine like there's no way to just make seamless transition between like indoor outdoor areas here. There's like a little bit of a loading screen. But like the way that this is interacting with like just making just a lot of outside spaces and making them feel like inside spaces by putting, I guess, bookshelves
Yeah, bookshelves and
as
like
walls. Yeah, as
walls.
like walls is very interesting.
Yeah, and there's some like screens that people use. But yeah, they added this feature. It's called the Dream Suite, where you can get a code of someone else's island and you can just go there and go look at everything that they've set up. It's cool. I'm in Animal Crossing. I'll continue to play it. It's just a very chill thing you log into.
Nice.
Yeah. It's my Animal Crossing minute. What's up with Kentucky Route Zero? That's your I see that came up there.
Yeah. Yeah. So I guess I didn't rank this list, but I don't have much of like a hard time saying this is probably like my favorite game to come out this year. Would be Kentucky Route Zero, which is a episodic sort of point and click adventure, uh, where you as a cast of we'll call them some characters. We'll say that you play as a delightful cast of fellas, um, need to make a delivery, the last delivery for an antique store, um, that that is closed well beyond the start of the game. An address on this that is set on, I believe it's 5 Dogwood Drive, and the only way to get there is to travel along the Zero, which is the sort of ephemeral highway route that exists in Kentucky, um, that you can only get to through very specific means, um, taking very specific directions, and once you get on it, the journey just starts. It is this like magical, it's this like surreal, like magical realist sort of thing in the same, like I guess like for like Americana, like magical surrealism is like some of what you get in like Twin Peaks when it doesn't want to be about like a murder, right? Um, and this is just a great like the entire package of this game is pretty phenomenal. Like it's this 5 episode sort of journey to make this delivery, as like you reconcile with like the realities these characters find themselves in, uh, the ultimate fates of some of these characters, and how they interact with the world around them and its ever-changing sort of circumstances as you go through communities that sort of suffered heavily under the economic impact of like specifically within this game like the like mid 2000s economic recession that hit America pretty hard, and you are going through a lot of communities that were just kind of left to die in the
Yeah.
wake of that. And it's like every bit of storytelling in this game is like so like pointed in that direction and is so like I don't even know if angry is the right word, but like contemplative of like how these spaces were made, whether or not they were always doomed to fail, the factors that made them fail, and how the people left behind are trying to eke out any sort of life in the wake of a disaster that they had no way of averting or preparing for.
And there's such a weird vibe I get off of this game, like where it's like this is a video game, but it's like doing much more than other video games like normally do. Like the narrative that this game is trying to tell you mixed with like the visuals and like this is somewhere between a movie and a video game and something else completely that I think makes this same game seem like really special. And I'm really excited to actually dig into this at some point.
Yeah. And like the other, so like something like how that game sort of like blends that feels, it continuously like plays with perspective, right? So like there will be times where like how the camera interacts with it. So like there'll be times where the camera is just like a scene and you walk around that scene, or there are times where like the camera is constantly shifting as you're going through this area. Like in the second episode, you go through a museum where there's like a kind of like a I'll say just a house museum, right? Like there are different houses from different like periods of popular construction that found its way like popular like architectural like thought that found its way into America, and you're going like through these houses and they're all like very focused around how people were building low income houses. And the camera is constantly shifting around you because the camera is like the camera of the museum, right? Like the security footage of that museum is shifting to follow you to make sure that you're not, doing anything as you interact with the inhabitants of this museum, and sort of read more about how it was formed and what it's doing now, sort of thing. And then there's also like sometimes the camera scrolls, and then when you get into the interlude chapters, which this game was released over a period of 7 years, in episodes, and something that would also sometimes be released to sort of coincide with these episodes were these interlude chapters where you didn't play as like the main cast of characters, right? So that would be main cast being the driver Conway, the repair woman Shannon, and their dog, as well as this other cavalcade of characters they pick up. So in a lot of the times the interlude, you play as this wandering group of like I believe they're journalists. Like by the end of it, I believe it makes it clear that they are journalists. You play as this group, with this woman Emily, her friends Ben, and I think Ed. I think is the third fella there, and you sort of the first one is you going through this very ever changing like museum exhibit, for this one artist, who goes by the name of Lulu, who made some really interesting work, but didn't get to go anywhere with it professionally. And then you meet that artist in the second episode. She's working a desk job at a bureau that you find with absolutely no real like thought of being able to do anything with her art, which is just the realities of like trying to make art in capitalist society. And it's like everything is connected in that way, and everything is like interacting is in conversation with each other, with every other part of that game in a way that you don't see at first, but by the time you get to like the fifth episode and you're going through this like elegy for this town that is about to be abandoned, it is like it all like connects and hits in a way that is incredible.
And I will say the art of this game is so connected to the story of what is going on and so connected to like the themes of like this game goes from like being beautiful to being like depressing like dull like browns and yellows and kind of oranges, and then it goes from like to blues and teals. But I think they mix so well to get like the theme of this game.
Well, yeah, like it's like when you get to like the grays and like the browns, like it's this like really alienating feeling because like that's when you're at the, I want to say like strangest areas, right? Like that's when you get to the points in the game where you are in the areas that are hardest to connect with, and they want you to be sort of like they want you to be off put by them. Whereas then when you get to like when you reach, because you'll reach Dogwood Drive, you're just going to point when you get there, you reach Dogwood Drive, and the town that it's located in is so lush and beautiful in a way. It's also mostly destroyed. Um, but there is a warmth there that exists within its palette and art style that is nothing short of an achievement in how they pulled that off.
So yeah, I'm really glad all of this came out. I don't know, a cool game. I want to get into it.
Yeah,
It's an experience, I will say.
it's really great. I will say there will definitely be like there's some times when it does like kind of drag a bit. Like the fourth episode is really long comparatively, like compared to the rest of it. Um, but I think if you get like the right sort of sequences in the fourth episode, it becomes this really like kind of becomes like when Kentucky Route Zero is at its angriest in a real way. Like the fourth episode is when it is both at its saddest and it's also when is just enraged at the injustice the injustice that people have faced like within the people abandoned in like what are often called flyover states have faced in the wake of an economic cataclysm that they were never helped out of.
Well, it seems like it's doing a lot of good stuff. Should we go to
Yeah,
my favorite game of the year?
let's hit your
Speaking of,
favorite.
yeah, Final Fantasy VII Remake, also an economic cataclysm of capitalism destroying the planet. So in Final Fantasy VII, there's a planet, and it's everything's really cool, and they love the environment. And then a meteor hits, and it turns into a wasteland. And the corporations come there and are like, oh yeah, there's this thing called Mako, which is like magic energy in the earth. Let's just build a big fucking reactor on the planet. So that's where Final Fantasy VII
Starts.
takes place.
Yeah.
Is like you're in Midgar, the what I would call the idealist post-apocalyptic like city of like nuclear reactor power is what I will
It is
call
like
it.
yeah, it's basically like you start out in like a cyberpunk in a magic cyberpunk world.
Yeah, yeah. And it is good. The combat, holy shit! This is a remake of a game from 1997, and they made turn-based combat work in a game that's like an action
Which is
RPG. Like
yeah.
I'm swinging my sword at motherfuckers, and then I'm hitting pause at certain points to use spells from my different party members. Like they did it,
Yeah, because
Austin.
your
They
basic
fucking did
spells
it.
like build up like your basic hits build up your spells, right?
Yeah, so you have a active meter that has like 2 bars, and each spell will usually cost 1 bar. So I'm attacking people, and then I'm using spells and skills to do different things. But I'll get to the combat in a second. But this turned a 6 hour experience into like this game is about 40 hours. They should have cut like 6 hours out. There is some filler in this game, but everything else that they're doing, kind of pushing the characters to like a point of like that you are getting to know them way better. Then they're all fully voice acted, which never happened before. I think Cloud ends up being like the writing and like the dialogue of Cloud ends up being really endearing towards the end of it. Because in the beginning, you think he's kind of a shithead who doesn't care about anything but getting paid. But as it turns out, if you wipe the dust away, there's a little diamond there. He's a pretty cool guy,
Yeah.
Austin. You know.
Yeah, no, Cloud's a sweet boy. I've always like after like playing like the original, like I've always said this about Cloud. He's a sweet boy. Like immediately after the first like reactor like job, he's still going on about how he just wants to get paid. But then you meet Tifa, and it's like, no, you're here for a different reason. You want to help your pal.
Yeah, so Tifa's your like childhood friend who you knew before you enlisted as a soldier. And what makes Cloud different than the usual dudes is his eyes are green, and he got injected with Mako, and that made him a fucking badass. I guess that made him like a super soldier because that's like the one of the things of this is like you have this like corrupt government who are heavily invested in military operations and injecting their soldiers with like things that will basically make them stronger at the cost of like a shortened lifespan or like these people probably dying of being injected by it. But so yeah, in the beginning you're with this group called Avalanche, and they're a terrorist organization who wants to destroy the reactors and bring down Shinra, which is the electric company, who is so in bed with the military. It's not even
I would,
funny. They basically make all this stuff for the
they are the
military.
military.
Yeah, they are the military of this. The business is the government in this town, as it turns out. And I think the things that this does right, to talk on the gameplay a little more, is this is steps forward of like the combat of Final Fantasy 15 and getting it closer to like a hack and slash, like a Nier Automata or like a Devil May Cry, where I'm switching between my combos and then using my magic to like to try and stagger an enemy to where I'll do more damage to them, or I'm using healing spells. There's like 40 or 50 different types of materia that you can equip, so there's like a good variety of stuff. Like like to talk about builds, the way I set Cloud up is he will enter battle with a filled up gauge, and he has a triple slash combo which he'll go between three people, and it staggers them more. And then as I'm doing these attacks more often, I'm building up the meters of other people because I'm doing the same triple slash move over and over again. And then I turned Barrett into a tank where he just has a shit ton of health. He's healing everyone. He's using magic, and he's got a lot of range. There's like a lot of options you can do with like the 4 playable characters that you have in this, which has been really cool.
Yeah, yeah, these that's like I remember like doing something similar in like the original is that like you spec Cloud to be the offense, sort of like Tifa is like a lot of crit damage because her special can get pretty buck wild, and Barrett, since he has like the least offensive capabilities with like materia, you use him to heal like until you get Aerith, who just is the wizard.
Yeah, she's the wizard. In this one, she has a thing she'll put on the ground that it's like a aura that when you stand in it, when you cast a spell, it'll double cast it. So I'm just like double casting spells, and I have a staff that makes her spells cost less, and she's a shit ton of fucking MP. Um, the cool thing about this has been like you do not spend a lot of time in the wall market, which is like an area you go to go meet Don Corneo, who owns this market. It's kind of like a what I would call a almost like a Las Vegas type area, or like a Japanese market where it's just like kind of it's not a slum here, but there's a lot of money in here, and it's a lot of like excitement and bars and nightclubs and
Yeah,
stuff.
it's the
But
entertainment
they
district.
flesh out, yeah, it's the entertainment district, and they really flesh out that area. And I spent a lot of time in there, and I spent a lot of time with Jessie doing a mission for her. And you do 2 reactors, and the reactors are really fucking rad. Like that, when this game came out in March, that demo fucking sold me on this, because it's just they just give you the first mission to play, but right when you get out of that, the game will hit you with being like, "Hey, I'm gonna teach you about side missions." And I'm like, "Yo, game, I don't give a fuck about these side missions," and that's like kind of what stopped me. And I think there is this game has a problem with its pacing, where things will pick up, and then it kind of wants to be a video game where it will have you do these side missions for people that aren't as exciting, and then it picks up into the narrative and it keeps going. But then there's sections that kind of drag out. There's sections not from the original game that they put in there to make this a 40-hour game instead of like a 32-hour game.
Yeah.
The ones in particular that stand out is there's a train graveyard that is like an old train yard that is like nobody uses anymore, and there's a bunch of ghosts running around of kids who like died of maca poisoning or something, and they're trying to talk to you, and it takes like an hour and a half to go through there or something. And then there's just like weird, like I'm in the sewers doing stuff with someone because I'm trying to help someone get revenge on Don Corneo. It's like, oh, that you probably didn't need this also, but I don't know. I wish it had been post game stuff that you do after you beat the game. Like there's a lot of stuff that I wish they would have finished the story, got to the end, and then it lets you have a post game before what happens at the end. Because I think at the
Yeah.
end Midgar gets destroyed because Sephiroth comes back and there's some shit.
Well, it's like it doesn't get like destroyed, but like it does. A lot of it does get like pretty fucked up. And you also need to like
Yeah.
scram because like Avalanche is the most wanted. is like number one.
Yeah, and the upgrades are pretty cool, and everything that you're doing to like level up your characters has been really fun. The summons are really good. There's this kid, I can't remember his name, but he will give you some intel missions where he's like, "Yo, I need you to go stagger 10 enemies or go try out these different weapons." And then eventually you'll fight the summons that you'll get later in like a VR mission.
Yeah.
So I fought Ifrit, this thing called Leviathan and Shiva, and then they would give me the summoning materia. And those fights are really cool. They're pretty epic. Like Leviathan is this giant serpent that's like going around the whole VR area,
Yeah.
splashing water at me and stuff. Very cool.
Leviathan's like a late game summon for the original game. So it's really interesting that like they decided that they were going to put that summon in this first chapter of what is most likely going to be a trilogy of Final Fantasy VII Remake games.
And they've talked about some other stuff. Like they want to have a side story with Zack. So I'm gonna get into the ending of this a little bit because this game does some shit. This game does some shit I don't like, and then some shit I'm just like, yeah, whatever, it's fine. So this game is different than the first game. It's a different like dimension, I would say. So it has two timelines. It has the timeline you're playing, and then there's a timeline where Zack survived. Because Zack is a dude that Cloud is hanging out with when he's a soldier. And they do a mission in this place called Niflheim. And that is where they find the meteor that crashed, which was actually an alien that the bad dude Sephiroth wants. So he kind of murders everyone in Niflheim. And Zack and Cloud get out of there. And like, Zack dies and Cloud takes a sword and Cloud takes some of the memories of Zack or something like that. Some weird stuff. But in this, those two are happening at the same time. There's a timeline where Zack died and there's a timeline where he was alive. And then there's these spirits running around that know what originally happened in the original Final Fantasy. Like they want Aeris to die. They want them to kill Sephiroth. They want like you to not do the side story with Jesse, because at some point it diverges where you go with Jesse to do that, and that's a tangent. And the spirits show up at certain places that are different, except for like the filler content, which is just there because of gameplay.
Yeah.
But at the end, like Sephiroth does this thing where he can travel between areas by appearing out of nowhere. There's this thing in Kingdom Hearts where the enemies will show up using the darkness as a portal. And Sephiroth just kind of shows up at the end when you're in the Shinra Tower being like, yo, I'm about to do some shit to Midgar and the planet because I want this Mako energy and the Ancients, which are like a race of like magic people who used to live before the meteor crashed, who are very good at using Mako and like stuff like that. But I don't know. The last fight scene is just Sephiroth showing up and you fight him. I wish he would have had like an army with him. I know in the original game he's not like a dude controlling an army, but I think that would have been more interesting or something. Because he knows stuff is different, and so does Aeris. And I wish they would have like done something a little different with that. But you just kind of get to the end and it's like you're outside of Midgar after it being destroyed by Sephiroth and his weird... He basically has the army of like these spirits, pretty much. So you're outside of Midgar and be like, oh, we need to get Sephiroth and do stuff. And then it kind of cliffhangs there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like the idea with that is like both like Aerith and Sephiroth know what the like original thing there is, right? So like I feel like the intent there is like A, because this game wants everyone to understand that it is aware, the people who are making this are aware it's a remake, right? Um and like I feel like what they want to do with Sephiroth and Aerith is like Aerith wants things to progress the way that they did maybe in like the original game, because like that's what they know will work. And I feel like probably by the time you get into this second game, it's going to maybe think about putting you in in a place where, as Cloud, like you dare to imagine a world where things can be different and maybe even better, than they were by the end of the original Final Fantasy VII. And I don't know if I'm super interested in that. Uh, but I
Yeah,
think
and
it.
what is it? The original game, Sephiroth summons meteor and it fucks the planet up, doesn't it?
No, do you want me to say?
I think they just beat Sephiroth, right? You can say it.
Yeah.
I've played.
So I mean, I guess
I've seen Advent
yeah.
Children.
So like, well, the thing is, and this is why Advent Children's such a disappointment on a creative level, well, really on every level. Um, the thing that happens is you find like a materia that will allow you to like awaken the planet to defend itself from meteor. And the thing about this materia is like it will activate the planet and the planet will defend itself, but there is no telling if the planet will count humanity as something it needs to protect because of how shitty people have been to the world, right? Specifically, unlike the case of Shinra and Midgar, and how like that is kind of like the norm of how people live. And by the end of the game, like so the end of the game activates and you save the planet, but the final camera is like Red 13 running with a couple of other like whatever like species of animal they are, like pups, and running up to a destroyed Midgard that has been reclaimed by nature and not a person in sight. So it's really ambiguous as to whether or not humanity gets to survive um, this apocalypse if it's found worthy of surviving this apocalypse. But it's still worth doing because like you should give a damn about your planet.
Yeah, I can see it. I guess there's like in my mind there's like two stories. There's like the story ending of Final Fantasy VII, which is kind of like the idea that like, oh yeah, there's no more humans and nature is reclaiming. And then there's the story where I want to keep seeing what Cloud and the gang are doing in like Dirge of Cerberus and like Advent Children, which it's different. For someone who wants that original ending, I can see where the frustrations come from. But as someone like I really liked Advent Children. I like continuing what's up with Sephiroth, who are these dudes chasing Cloud, who are like clones or something. I don't fucking remember. But for that, and I think they're for the initiative right now that they're doing is they have the Final Fantasy VII Remake and what I think will be Remake 2. A side story with Zack doing something else, and I think there's a fourth thing that they were talking about. They kind of showed a slate of things they're doing, and it all spells out something I can't remember. No, it's A B C D E and F. Advent Children, Dirge of Cerberus is D. Crisis Core is C. Can't remember what the other one was.
Um,
Oh, the before the other one is gonna have like a B in it or something. But anyway, I don't know. The problem I have with the ending is like you're in the Shinra Tower. You like the original game. You see Genova. Sephiroth shows up and tells you stuff because like in that original game, you see Genova and Shinra Tower when you rescue Eris, right?
no,
Or is that later?
that's much later. Genova does not become a thing until much later into that game.
Do you go to Niflheim and see
You
Genova?
do like so yeah, like you go to Niflheim, and the thing is like I don't think you see Genova the first time. The first time is like you're just hunting Sephiroth because within the original game, like you don't know about like the greater conflict of like the world until well after you leave Midgar, because the thing there is like Sephiroth is up to do some stuff that's probably going to destroy the planet and you need to stop him, and then you learn out about what that is uh much
Yeah.
later.
So Genova is at Shinra HQ. I was bringing up this clip from the original game because you see Red 13 in his glass, and then Genova is like in a thing here. I'll just send it to you. But what the remake does differently is Sephiroth just kind of shows up with like interdimensional powers and just like, yo, we're gonna fight right now. and then a bunch of weird shit happens, and then the game kind of ends. I'm trying to think what else happened. I don't know. And then you meet like Rufus, who is like the new Shinra leader because the other one died, and
Yeah, because
some other people show
old
up.
man Shinra gets got, and you meet Rufus, who is
Yeah.
the shitty kid, the shitty son.
Yeah. And Sephiroth stabs Barrett, but the spirits save him because he's not supposed to die on that day.
Yeah.
Stuff
So
happens.
just like
I don't know. But everything leading up to it so far has been so worth it. Like I didn't beat the game, but I watched the ending of it and what was happening. I was like, it's whatever.
yeah, like it's just. I mean, the thing is like this is being made in such a way like where the first one like wasn't where like how do you make a remake of Final Fantasy VII where everything that you made after Final Fantasy VII that deals with Final Fantasy VII also exists? And I think they have to they like have started the first part of their answer, but now they have like every follow up to do, and I am interested in seeing what they do as this progresses.
Yeah, me too. Me too. I think tying Sephiroth to the Phantoms was a weird choice because you go into this like you basically fight him in like an alternate dimension and then come back and they're all the Phantoms are destroying Midgar. So I don't know. I guess we'll have to see what comes up of it in the other parts. But I'm excited that everything else has been totally cool, totally fun, and they've like retold the story in a good way. So I'm excited.
Got anything else you want to talk about with Final Fantasy VII?
No, I think that's good. All right. Well, that was part 1 of Third Coast Gaming's 2020 deliberations and conversations. We will be back for part 2 when we'll be talking about the games we played in 2020, not just our top 5 lists. So thank you, and please join us then.